המבדיל בין קודש לחול, כתותינו ימחול. זרענו וחוספנו ירבה כחול, וככוכבים בלילה. שבוע טוב, 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 שבוע טוב. A good week, a week of peace, make gladness reign and joy increase. A good week, a week of peace, make gladness reign and joy increase. Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishvi, David, im Moshiach ben David, Eliyahu hanavi, Eliyahu hatishvi.
So good to see everyone tonight. Shavua Tov. I think we all wish we were at Jenny's birthday party, not at her memorial service. You probably feel, as I do, and I know my beloved friend and cousin Rebecca feels, just a sense of utter disbelief that we are in this place. Disbelief because whenever Jenny came into a room, she brought life to every room, to every situation, to every relationship, to every bat mitzvah that she saved from oblivion for how many years. And she kept persevering and coming back. And whenever she was anywhere, you know this, no matter how she felt, and we knew that oftentimes she felt horrible, she put on that face and went. I remember, was it Max's party? Max Gelman had a birthday party at the chocolate factory. Utter chaos. Boys running around, splattering their face with chocolate. You know, the kind, let's run from this place. Jenny loved it. She was right in the middle of it, and she had a big smile on her face, and she just loved to watch and to participate in life happening. And we always thought, no matter how bleak it was, she'd come back, we'd see her, she'd be here. She was really indispensable to us. And I know it's the loss of her beloved brother, family, and we know her from many walks of life. But I know that just thinking about Rebecca and Jenny, that Jenny needed Rebecca, Rebecca needed Jenny, and the way best friends do. Nafsha kashura v'nafsha. One soul was bound up in the soul of another. And that is an incredible loss when you lose a soulmate of that depth. And you've been carrying that for a long time, as so many of us do. And so we must go from shock to feeling this loss, and to living in the way Jenny did and the way she would want us to, and perpetuating the memory not only of a woman who died much too young, but a cousin of great gifts, a woman who loved what she did, loved her family, loved her friends, and celebrated life as long as it was to live, was hers to live. To paraphrase Bialik, there was a woman, behold, she is no more. Too soon her life was quenched, too soon her melody hushed. What a pity. One more song she had to sing, and now forever lost is her song. Great is the grief. There was a woman, behold, she is no more. Too soon her life was quenched, too soon her melody hushed. What a pity. One more song she had to sing. Now lost forever is that song, forever lost. But fear not, Jenny. We will continue to sing your song. Zecher Tzadik Levracha, the memory of a righteous one, will always be for us a blessing.
Together, let's say the 23rd Psalm. Adonai is my shepherd, I shall not want. God makes me lie down in green pastures. God leads me beside the still waters and restores my soul. God leads me in right paths for the sake of your name. Even when I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You have set a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil. my cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of God forever. Erev Tov and Shavua Tov. Good evening. I am Cantor Rebecca Garfein, better known as Becky, to Jenny and to all of her friends from this congregation, Rodeph Sholom. But more importantly, I am one of Cantor Jenny's dearest friends and colleagues. We were classmates at the Hebrew Union College School of Sacred Music, and our lives were intertwined for close to 25 years. Hers was a voice that celebrated all the important milestones in my life, my wedding to my husband, Mike, the britot of our boys. Through the good times and the even tough ones, Jenny never missed a thing. And this is truly how she lived her life, with more energy than any of us in this room could expend. In 50 short years, Jenny was able to fit in about 100 years of living. I think that's our sound system, so we need to shut it off. I don't know if Jenny's in the back. Not Jenny, Jenny Jurek, although Jenny's certainly here too. As many of you in this room know, Jenny was an exceptionally talented teacher and helped so many students reach their potential. One of Jenny's families, and I believe it was Peter Scherf, who's here tonight, once called her the Mariano Rivera of B'nai Mitzvah tutoring. That title deservedly stuck, and Jenny, being the Yankee-obsessed fanatic that she was, delighted in this title. Jenny began private tutoring in New York City when she moved here in 2000 and quickly became Rodeph Sholom and my personal secret weapon. In 2003, we brought Jenny onto our regular tutoring staff, and she worked with us literally up until her passing. Exactly a month ago in Chicago, Jenny's hometown, I spoke at her funeral. Somehow I thought that with a little time, it would be a little easier to write my thoughts down. But as reality has set in, the loss of Jenny has only gotten even more enormous, if that is even possible. I sat down on Jenny's birthday this past Monday and I wrote this. The Shaloshim, the initial period of mourning, has almost passed. Jenny, you have been with me every minute of every day since your passing. I find that my mind is constantly on you, thinking about you, remembering Jenny's stories, and praying that you still know, though not physically here, how much you are loved and missed. I dreamed about you last week. In my dream, I spoke to you, and even though you did not reply, you were there, smiling at me, your beautiful, happy self. That vision gave me great comfort as I now try to navigate my life without you. And all of us do. Jenny, you have such good friends and family, and while I am sad it has taken this tragedy for me to get to know some of them, you would be so happy to know that we are now a community of Jenny, joined together by the fact that all of us love you. You all may not believe this, but I had to cajole Jenny to get onto Facebook. It's the truth. She was not going to do it. She had her, no way, I'm not doing that. Well, in due time, Jenny became the Facebook queen, posting updates, sometimes overly so, and daily pictures of beautiful bouquets of flowers that frequently had a pink theme, her favorite color, often accompanied with bonjour, have a beautiful day. It was her own version of Moda Ani. Thank you, God, for life. In fact, the programs that Jen Jurek lovingly prepared for tonight are hot pink, intentionally and in Jenny's honor. Facebook kept Jenny connected to all of us through her good days and her bad ones. And now Jenny's Facebook page is a place where many of us have been able to mourn her as a community, but it has also been a place to share the wonderful Jenny stories and pictures. It needs to be said how proud I know Jenny would be of her brother Charlie. He's doing such a great job taking care of everything, and it has not and cannot be easy. Charlie, you are a blessing. And Mike, our boys, and I are so grateful to have you in our lives. I know that Jenny's older brothers, Peter and Stephen, and their families keenly feel the loss of our Jenny and are also very saddened by her early departure. As many of you know, Jenny and I met in our first year in Israel on the Jerusalem campus. She was the roommate of a dear friend, now Rabbi, Audrey Pollack. All of us shared a Shabbat dinner at my apartment the first week of school, but it would take close to the entire year before Jenny and I really connected on a deep level. I was the baby of the class. To this day, I am still called Baby Becky. True story. As there was another Becky in the class, Becky Carmi. Most of the cantoral students at that time were coming to the college after very accomplished professional singing careers. By the time Jenny came to the college, she already had 2 master's degrees, one in French and the other in opera performance. And if that wasn't enough, she spent a year in Paris studying opera performance on a Fulbright scholarship. I myself was right out of conservatory and tended to hang out with all the young student rabbis that had also come to Hebrew Union College right out of school. Look, I was really on the young side. The class had to get to know me, and I, in turn, really wanted to connect with my colleagues. I will never forget the night Jenny embraced me as a friend. She had taken the time to come to a service that I was leading for Yom HaAtzmaut, for Israel Independence Day. And following that service with Jerusalem as the backdrop on the rooftop of HUC, we talked at length about life and things we were going through at the time, boy troubles, that kind of stuff. Needless to say, from that point on, we became inseparable. This only deepened and grew, and by the fall back in New York City, you rarely found one of us without the other. Admittedly, this could be a problem at times. We were prone to laughter and could be just a little disruptive in our classes. One of our professors, Cantor Jacob Mendelson, who is here tonight with his beautiful, wonderful wife, Freda, said that he couldn't understand why Jenny, Carmi, and I were constantly laughing at him. Of course, we felt we were laughing with him. Something about the chemistry of our class, especially when Jenny was in the room, led to a lot of full-throated laughter. It was Jack's first year of teaching at the college. Oy, what a first class to have. Pretty unforgettable. It is truly a miracle that our shenanigans didn't make Jack quit. Circling back to our year in Jerusalem, anyone who has ever heard Jenny sing knows she possessed a powerful, dramatic soprano voice. Our professor in Israel, Cantor Eli Schleifer, loved her voice from the beginning and selected her to sing the solo from the piece Yerushalayim when we were to perform at the World Congress of Jewish Studies at Mount Scopus for Prime Minister Shamir. Picture the scene, a beautiful, very hot summer day atop Mount Scopus. As many of you may recall, Shamir was, let's say, a bit height challenged. We lined up to sing, and I believe it was Jenny who accidentally said directly into the microphone, He's so short. Well, of course, our class lost it, and we couldn't quite get it together. We were on one zany adventure. But no shock either. That day, Jenny hit the ball right out of the park with her stunning solo. It was unforgettable. She'd be so proud of me referencing baseball right now. During our first week of school on the New York campus, word had traveled to the school that our class was a bit, shall we say, hard to manage. We were the largest class the college had ever had. There were 17 of us with a lot of big personalities. I think you get the picture. Another professor, who later turned out to be a pussycat, Cantor Andy Edison, began the very first day of his Reform High Holy Day workshop with a lecture. I have heard about your class, and I will have none of that in this classroom. Well, without missing a beat, in the sweetest voice she could muster, Jenny replied, I love my class. This became our theme. We would walk the halls, I love my class, just all the time. After we graduated from cantorial school, Jenny went to Anshe Sholom, just outside of Chicago, and I stayed here in New York City at my student pulpit turned full-time, the Riverdale Temple. For Jenny, taking the pulpit at Anshe Sholom meant that she was able to go home to her family, to her little brother Charlie, and to her beloved parents, now of blessed memory, Barbara and Burton. Even after the college, we shared many concerts all over the map, singing fabulous soprano mezzo duets in Israel, Chicago, New York, Florida, and perhaps most memorably, Curacao. Conveniently, Jenny and I landed on the board of the American Conference of Cantors at the very same time. It was also the year that the ACC board was invited and brought down to Curacao to help celebrate the Jewish community's 350th anniversary. Jenny loved to travel, so there was no way she was going to miss this experience. One of the many beautiful days we were in Curacao, in between rehearsals and meetings, Jenny and my husband Mike had decided to go to the pool for a few minutes to catch a few rays. Jenny thought it would be so awesome to go and hang out at the pool. Now, those of you who know Jenny know that was like she loved the sun. She loved going to the pool and the beach. I think the two of them lasted outside about exactly 5 minutes before they realized they were downwind of black, toxic fumes from the infamous oil refineries on Curacao. Jenny, my husband Mike, and I shared so many wonderful, happy times. We really were like the Three Musketeers. But last year, the three of us shared a very, very difficult time. My dear husband Mike, who's here tonight, was diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia. And unbelievably, he and our Jenny traded off hospital stays. There were times when I would leave her bedside to run to his. I would joke with her at the time, can't you and Mike get it together? I mean, if you're going to both be in the hospital at the same time, can you at least be in the same hospital? Mike still has a text from when Jenny would text Mike from her hospital bed at Lenox Hill to his hospital bed at Weill Cornell. Even her own hospitalizations never stopped her from reaching out to Mike during that very scary time. Remarkably, last year, in between bouts of her own illness, Jenny would visit Mike and even went with Mike to the ER and kept him company until I was able to get there. Jenny brought him Canada Dry Ginger Ale and Snapple iced tea when solid food was too unappealing. With her support and the support of many others, Mike has now returned to health and to life. So last month, when all of us, including Mike and Jenny's dear friend Doug and her brothers Charlie and Stephen, were at Jenny's bedside, it was hard to accept that she was not going to come back to us as she had so many times before. It is still near impossible to accept that she is physically gone. On November 7th, Jenny took her last breath as Shabbat was about to roll in. She was peaceful. I was scheduled to lead services at Rodeph Sholom later that very evening. Jenny had planned to be at services with us, as we were commemorating Kristallnacht, November 9th, 1938, the Night of Glass, the night that marked the beginning of the Holocaust. It was very difficult for me to know what to do about leading the service, but Mike said, go and sing for Jenny. She would have wanted you to. So I did. Jenny was in every note that I sang. I felt that she became my neshama yetera, the extra soul that each one of us receives on Shabbat. When I sang L'chadodi, and we turned to face the doorway to greet the Sabbath bride, Jenny was there. Bo'i kala, come in, Sabbath bride, come in. I could literally imagine her walking into our sanctuary, healthy, out of pain, with the effervescent glow that she always had, resplendent with her gorgeous big blue eyes, blonde hair, and peaches and cream complexion. What a blessing to experience that moment of comfort. And that night, when we sang Lewandowski's Hallelujah, I sang soprano in honor and in tribute to this remarkable woman, Cantor, and most importantly, my dearest friend, Jenny. Rest in peace, Jenny. I know that you are now singing among the angels. I love you, and we love you, and we will never forget you or all the goodness you brought to this world. I have taken poetic license with a passage written by the poet Chaim Nachman Bialik. We didn't talk about this before, Rabbi. But, you know, we've been together a long time. Great minds, yes. In a few moments, our beloved teacher and friend, Cantor Jack Mendelson, will sing these words. Bialik wrote, Acharei moti, after my death mourn me thus. There was a woman, and see, she is no more. Before her time, her life was ended, and the song of her life was broken. Oh, she had one more melody. And we will continue to sing her songs in her honor and her memory, and every Shabbat, she can be that extra soul within each of us, the neshama yetera in each one of our lives. Amen. Jack.
Hayta ishaureu enena od kodem zmana meita isha zot ושירת חייה באמצע נפסקה. וצר עוד מזמור אחד הייתה לה, והנה אבד המזמור לעד, אבד לעד, אבד לעד, אבד לעד. הייתה אישה ורעו, איננה עוד קודם זמנה, מתה האישה הזאת. והנה אהבה באמצע
So these words from Jenny's colleague and friend, Rabbi Donald Gluckman, who is the emeritus rabbi of Anshe Shalom, and he's here tonight with us with his wife. So the words are his, although the voice is mine. My friend and colleague Jenny had a lot more songs to sing. Songs of the love of God, songs of the Jewish people, songs of Torah, songs of friendship, songs of love. I remember meeting Jenny at the Hebrew Union College. It struck me then that she had a wonderful personality. In fact, she had a big, beautiful personality. She was outgoing, strong, well-spoken, and she could really sing. She had a big voice. She was young, slightly flirtatious in her little girl kind of way, and she hit the high notes like no one else. She hit the low notes just as well. I liked her instantly and knew she would be a wonderful colleague. I was right on all counts. I did not know at that time how good a friend she would become as well. Knowing Jenny was a little bit of an adventure, like the time right after she learned to drive and crashed her brand new car on Western Avenue, just down the street from the temple. Surrounded by police and tow trucks, Jenny disengaged herself from the airbag and called me to come and take her back to the temple for B'nai Mitzvah lessons. She was always up for pizza from Giordano's or Mexican food, even the worst dives in Chicago Heights. And when we talked about singing one of the really high notes during the Yom Kippur service, she would always say, That's what they pay me the big bucks for, Reb. I am not certain if I dreamed it up or not, but I think she said that on the bima once, right after Avinu Malkeinu. I believe it. That was my comment. Jenny was always fun to be around. She was a fun person, upbeat, happy, despite some of the disappointments she experienced in life, and mostly even when she was gravely ill. She was truly full of so much joy that sometimes I think she could have been a sidekick to the Baal Shem Tov instead of cantor of a Reformed temple, but we needed her more than the Hasidim did. Jenny had a great presence on the bima. She did not just sing well, she sang perfectly and with a deep kavanah. She was always self-assured and totally prepared for every service, every sermon and song, and she wanted everyone working with her to be equally prepared. She wanted the service to be a spiritual adventure for every worshiper, undisturbed. Jenny wanted her students to sing and chant at their B'nai Mitzvah. She taught them well. She was very organized and successful at this, and the kids loved her. Most importantly, Jenny was invariably supportive of me and my work. There was nothing she would not work with me on. We would chatter away endlessly, en route to funerals or weddings, and of course, Jenny sang at my daughter's wedding. She was a friend and a colleague. We never once, in the years we worked together, had a harsh word or disagreement. The closest thing to a problem between us was brought on by how well and easily Jenny learned songs and dialogue for our temple shows, and the absolute envy I had for her when I could barely memorize "If I Only Had a Brain" from The Wizard of Oz. If I only had a brain. Jenny was the kind of colleague I could call on to pitch in for me if I was away. In that capacity, she had some emotional and difficult funerals to conduct and hospital visits to make. But even as a young woman, she had the abundant emotional stability and maturity to visit the sick and comfort the bereaved. Jenny did call me Reb and Rebbe and sometimes Rabbi when she wanted something and putting on that little girl voice thing. Always in good fun and in true friendship. She was Jenny, full of fun and friendship, but there was always something more, deep and mutual respect. Deep into her soul, Jenny was a great Jew. She had good learning, a big heart, and I am happy to report in her later years, she even voted for some Democrats, which was quite a happy revelation to me. Jenny is gone, and it's hard for me to grasp. She had so much more to give, so much of her inner joy and beauty, so many songs to sing, songs of the love of God, of the Jewish people, songs of Torah and friendship and of love. I will miss Jenny very much, and I mourn with all of you today. It's beautiful. Now I'd like to call up dear friend Rabbi Sharon Forman for a few words.
Good evening. When my mom's beloved cousin passed away several years ago, I was able to attend her shiva. Held at the home of her daughter, the house brimmed with family, friends, delicious food, and wonderful stories and memories. At one point in the evening, we remarked how much our cousin would have loved that shiva. Tonight, in this sacred space, filled with friends and loved ones and beautiful music, I recall that same bittersweet feeling. And I know that Jenny would have been thrilled to have been honored here in such a loving way. I had the privilege of meeting Jenny during her first year of cantorial school and my first year of rabbinical school in Jerusalem. She was dear friends with Becky Garfein and Audrey Pollack, two of my old buddies from Kutz Camp. When we returned to the United States, Jenny and I became friendly on our own terms, and she and Val Lieber, who's also here this evening, and I spent a great deal of time together as classmates, study partners, people with Midwestern roots. I was born in Cleveland, so I was allowed to do that. And one Purim also, we had an amazing costume design. We were Charlie's Angels, and you can only guess who Farrah Fawcett was. My husband, Stephen, and I are blessed with 3 children. Abigail's our eldest, and she's in the 9th grade now. She's only 14 years old, but she's constantly assailed with the notion that all that matters is how a person performs in school, what activities she participates in, and what colleges down the road might find her acceptable. We try to teach her that it is her character that counts in this world, not some score she achieves on a standardized test. Jenny Izenstark embodies that concept. Jenny was brilliant. She had a photographic memory. She could learn a Torah portion in one sitting and see the little trope signs floating above the words like a collection of charms on a bracelet in her mind's eye. She earned advanced degrees in French literature. She knew any number of languages. And yes, we honor that talent and skill. But what we remember this evening together is not necessarily the quality of her vocal instrument, although that was an extraordinary gift. Tonight, we remember all of the things that made Jenny Jenny, that she hated when people spelled her name with an I and an E at the end, that she won a car on The Price is Right, that she used to be a Republican before a midlife conversion to Democrat, that she loved the Metropolitan Opera and her Yankees, and of course her sweet kittens and Trader Joe's dark chocolate caramels. Or that she had some quirky visual issue with depth perception. And if you baked with Jenny, which I had the opportunity to do, you had to be careful as she loaded up a measuring cup with flour because she couldn't detect how deep it was. Jenny was a gifted teacher who taught a seminar at Hebrew Union College to rabbinic students and helped us master the basics of Torah and Haftorah cantillation. It was special education. And she was patient and she was kind, and her whole face lit up with excitement when she taught, and she never gave up trying to help me distinguish between a Rivi'e and a Tavir. And most of all, Jenny was a loving and good friend. After Steve and I married, Jenny moved into our apartment building 20 floors down, and those were special times. When I went into labor at 4 a.m. with our son, Josh, Jenny was the person we knew we could call to watch over 3-year-old Abby until Steve's parents could arrive. Vividly, I recall Jenny materializing in a baby blue velour tracksuit. And for those of you who know my husband, he's the opposite of Ricky Ricardo when his wife is in labor. He's quiet, steady, businesslike. And suddenly, 4 a.m, Jenny bursts through the door, practically singing, "We're having a baby!" She offered to tie my shoes in between contractions. And that tinkling, beautiful chime of hers, she said she was thrilled to be there and to see a life about to make its entrance. And almost 10 years ago, our family moved to Westchester. I didn't get to see Jenny as much then, but we made a point to make a date each summer and go to a museum and share lunch. A few years ago, after Jenny started suffering from the alopecia aspect of her illness, I picked her up from a baby naming at which she had officiated in White Plains. Throwing my arms around her, and klutz that I am, I accidentally knocked the wig right off of Jenny's head, right in front of the parents and grandparents of the baby. Calmly, Jenny reapplied the wig, and she said, "As you can see, I've had some health challenges lately. I'm fine, though." And when we were alone in my car, I almost started to cry, and I apologized profusely for my part in the mishap. "Are you kidding me, Sharon?" she told me. She put her arm on mine. "They think I'm more fabulous now than they did before that happened." Can you imagine what they think I've been suffering through, and that my voice was so strong? They really think I'm something now. Don't worry, you did me a favor. I don't know if Jenny was just trying to make me feel better, but it worked. She knew how to be fabulous. She knew how to live her life bursting with song and energy, to fill a room with the power of her personality and her voice, to be brave in the face of personal loss of her cherished parents, and to show enormous grace and strength in her health battles. In Song of Songs, we are reminded, love is as fierce as death. Vast floods cannot quench love, nor rivers drown it. I will never forget my dear friend Jenny, with the why, and with those clear blue eyes that perceive the world with their overflowing depth of beauty and possibility. There was always more room in that cup. May her memory continue to be a blessing for all of us who knew her and loved her. She has taught us all to sing a little less timidly. Thank you so much, Jenny.
Now another dear colleague and friend, Rabbi Val Lieber.
I was one of the Charlie's Angels. I think I was Kate. Obviously. So I went to HUC also with Jenny, though I was in the rabbinical school for very good reason. All my life, people have commented about my singing. Stuff like, wow, you could really benefit from some singing lessons. Or, well, that was a creative harmony. Or, please sing far from the microphone. It's still off, right? Okay. Or you might consider voice lessons. Oh, you could use voice lessons. But you know, the only person who ever stepped up and actually said, I'd like to give you voice lessons, was Jenny. She was the only one who had the chutzpah to take me on. She was an optimist through and through. She believed a person could overcome deficiencies and setbacks. Yep, she had chutzpah. And so, each week for a while, in our second year at HUC, we'd go downstairs to one of the practice rooms in the CL after classes at HUC, and she would train me to hear better and to sing better. I paid her something like $20 a session, which even at that time was really, really low. We started right around this time of year, and so her first foray to conquer my intermittent tone deafness was a very simple little song called Mattathias Bold. Mattathias Bold, 5 brave sons had he. It's really simple, right? It's just a scale. I probably didn't sing it right now, and it took me at least a couple of lessons to even get close to that, to a scale. All the while, Jenny was encouraging me, playing notes on the piano for me to hear and try to match. And I know many of you can just do that at the drop of the hat, but it really, that's how I am. It's quite a scene. But, you know, Jenny never gave up. Then there was the middle of the song, which was a little trickier for me. Eliezer, brave and strong, Simon, John, and Jonathan. And the end just always got me. And Judah Maccabee, and Judah Maccabee. Is that actually right? Well, that was Jenny. She taught me how to do that. But after dozens and dozens and dozens of times, and I practice it actually regularly. One time for kicks, you know, we went on to sort of more challenging stuff, and one time for kicks, she was, you know, trying with me to match some notes, and we'd be with the piano all the time, and I was terrible at it. And she sang something and just said, you know, repeat it. And so just for kicks, I decided I would just try to sing it like Jenny would sing, way up in my high register with a whole lot of vibrato, which we Midwesterners call vibrato. So I sang it like that, like I did my Jenny. And she got this great big smile. I'm sure she hugged me, she clapped, and she got so excited. She said, "Val, you have so much more control in your soprano. That is your natural singing voice. I'm going to train you to sing like that." Oh, I felt so uncomfortable singing like that. So sometimes we'd sing in, the lowish, folky voice where I wasn't very accurate, and the higher voice where I was somewhat more accurate. And at some point, sadly, I quit the lessons. I think I felt strapped for cash, or at least that's what I'd said. Maybe I was just afraid to succeed and become quite a diva star, like Jenny had planned for me. However, since that time, I have sung like that. I've trotted out my cantor's voice from time to time, just for my own amusement and to shock people, like this. So over the last, 20 some odd years, I had forgotten that I'd really gotten that originally from Jenny, because I do it a lot. I just call it my cantor voice. Until earlier this week, when Cantor Rebecca Garfein put up the SoundCloud of Jenny singing on Facebook, and I listened, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's what I'm trying to do when I do that voice. I was trying to do a Jenny. All this time, whenever I, kind of go and act, for me, very quirky and kind of off the wall, that's my doing a Jenny. So this is for Jenny. And as bad as that was, I know Jenny is not, rolling over in her grave, because I know she's still encouraging me. She's probably clapping. She would want me to try it right now, again and again, but I am not going to. I will save you from that. Because, Jenny was a believer. She was an optimist. She didn't see setbacks as defeats. She just kept trying and trying, really literally until her dying day. She believed in life. She believed in herself. She believed in friendship. She believed in music. She believed in the future. Jenny, life is smaller without you. The future is less sunny in your absence. I miss you, Jenny. We all miss you. But I think we shall all keep singing for you. And your voice will be in us. We can all do a Jenny. And your voice will be our voices forever. Amen.
I'd like to call all of our colleagues and friends of Jenny to come forward to sing Sim Shalom by Max Janowski, who was probably Jenny's most favorite composer, and it was the composer that she wrote her master's thesis about when she was at Hebrew Union College. These words from first cousin Mary McDowell. It's excerpted from the eulogy that she gave in Chicago. Jenny was always either a phone call or visit away. When she visited us in California several times, we went to San Diego for SeaWorld, Beverly Hills for shopping, and up and down the coast. One particular visit, which shows the uniqueness of Jenny, was she wanted to attend a taping of The Price is Right, ultimately to be chosen as a contestant. We had to work, so we gave Jenny one of our cars, a map, because that was before you had GPS, directions, and sent her into LA. This was way before cell phones did everything for us. When I checked in with Jenny at noon and asked what was happening, she told me that she did not make the morning taping, but she and a group of people she met in line that morning were at the farmer's market across the street, having lunch, and they were going to go back for the afternoon taping. Go, Jenny! I loved her enthusiasm. At 7 p.m., when I hadn't heard from her, I checked in again. What's going on? Everything okay? Jenny replied, well, I'm signing papers. What papers? I asked. Well, I won! I won! Turns out you have a mini interview upon going in for the taping. Jenny told them, I'm Jenny Izenstark. I love The Price is Right. I love Bob Barker. All bubbly, you know Jenny. It's almost the end of the show, and the last contestant to be called, Jenny Izenstark, come on down. So, Jenny wins the next pricing and makes it into the final three. She won everything. A trip to Scotland, she took her mom. Living and bedroom furniture, that was split up to who wanted what. Golf clubs that Charlie got, and a car, which it turned out they didn't have, so she got the cash instead. Oh yes, and a year's supply of garlic. Overall value of like $40,000. This story, by the way, is so quintessential Jenny. She was vibrant, kind, generous, and supportive. You always knew Jenny had your back. Jenny, my life was better having you being a part of it. And this from her loving first cousin, Mary. And now I'd like to call upon her dear friend, Doug, to come and say a few words.
Thank you. No mic. Okay. Hello. Charlie and I spent the day in her apartment, and we were, going through things. You should be very sort of businesslike, and it's kind of a difficult situation. But we were pretty inseparable for over a decade, and I didn't cry, actually, during this as I thought I may. But I started to get to know this other part of her that I didn't know before. It's a funny thing. Just kind of going through the books and the things, and I found that her thesis and all this stuff that I actually never knew about. And it's not like we didn't talk. All we did was talk constantly, and I don't think we ever had a conversation less than at least 60 minutes. And so today's very interesting for me, especially interesting for us, I think, because we're putting together these pieces, and I'm seeing this other part of her life that I didn't ever really know about or think to ask. I mean, there's no hiding anything. She's an open book. I'm an open book. But it's amazing seeing this whole huge other part of her life that I really didn't know about. And it was full and vibrant, and I can't imagine, because the other life that I knew her with was so full and vibrant, and I don't know where you fit in all the time and the energy and everything, and it didn't matter, sickness, no sickness, it was all pretty much the same. Just maybe a couple extra stops over Lenox Hill. But what a blessed life. When I was texting people to just inform them, because I don't do Facebook so well, I was thinking, what do you say? And to me, I can't sum up a life in, a couple lines, especially hers, but, she was a real example, and she didn't live for herself alone. She spread that spark, that sort of godlike spark, in a big, big unadorned way. And she didn't wear these veils that a lot of us do. She really just lived. And to me, she was an example of a take no prisoners, no regrets. I mean, in a decade, I couldn't think of a regret, not a real regret, that she ever had. We would disagree, but she was quite certain, although malleable enough, to have a discussion about things. And taking my ego kind of out of the situation, when I was sitting by myself this weekend and thinking about all this, and how every third thought I have refers, oh, we should do, oh no, wait, we can't. Oh, let me ask her. No, I can't. But that's very sort of earthly stuff. When she left us on sort of during the energy of Shabbat, it was about 3:27, I think, but around 1 o'clock, I've heard, is when kind of the energy of Shabbat hits us. I've been informed that when you go at that time, you go directly to heaven. There's no stopping at other places. So all I could think of as I was kind of watching the sunset with crazy pink clouds, of course, pink and lavender clouds, as the sun is setting on a beach, that she just went right to her beloved parents. I mean, I was picturing her dad, who I never knew, but I felt I did. And these are his. She just went right into their arms. And I couldn't think of a better blessing that I could have ever wanted for her. I want her to be with them. She loves them so much. They loved her so much. So we're left here to do the rest of her work. It's not finished. What she did was give us a lot of light. So it's up to us to kind of continue that. So nice to meet you, friends. Thanks.
So with all these beautiful remembrances and memories, we now rise for the memorial prayer for the El Malei Rachamim and Kaddish. Shalom al mishkava v'nomer Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to our dear Jenny, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, may she find refuge in the shadow of your wings, and let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is her inheritance. May she rest in peace. And let us say together.
Amen.
If you'll turn to your pink pamphlets, you'll find Kaddish in the back. And I would ask my colleagues to return to the front. Just sing a little bit more. course, I want to thank Joyce Rosenzweig, and Jonathan Feynman, and all of the colleagues and speakers today for making this so very, very special. But there's one more thing to do, and that's we need to hear from Jenny. So.